Chapter 391, 3 versus 3. 3 against 3. Huh? Luo Gixing narrowed his eyes. Tang Wolin, you may have taken down Wu Sijuo, but victory is still ours. To Luo Gixing, he only needed to be wary of Gu Yue. However, while she may be strong, he didn't believe she could defeat all three of them alone. Xu Shaoan wasn't worthy of his attention, and Xu Lizzie was just a food-type soulmaster. Even with Xu Lizzie's support, it wouldn't be enough to turn the tide of battle. Luo Gixing held absolute confidence of his team's victory. In his mind, Tang Wolin's defeat had decided the battle. Tang Wolin was simply too important to his team. Tang Wolin wasn't powerful compared to Wu Sijuo, but he evened out the playing field with battle armor. He was the first person in all of the first grade to earn a piece of battle armor. Tang Wolin's blacksmithing talent had earned him the position of blacksmith representative. Everyone in their class wanted to work with him. Now that he revealed his battle armor and proved his skills, his popularity would undoubtedly skyrocket. Everyone aspired to become a battle armor master, and he took the lead. He had used his strength to prove he deserved to be the class president. If Luo Gixing wanted to snatch away the position, he had to win this battle and defeat the second grade team. His team still had a chance. It wasn't only because of his intellect that Luo Gixing ranked higher than Xu Yucheng. It was also his willpower. Absolute silence reigned over the spectators. The two strongest members of the Ranker team were eliminated, and the victor was yet to be decided. No one had predicted Tang Wolin and she would be able to take out Wu Sijuo and Xu Yucheng. Shen Yi glanced at Wu Zhangkong to her side, her heart filled with shock. Senior brother really does understand his disciples best. They both understood what sort of strength Yi Xinglan possessed. If Yi Xinglan had participated in the battle, then the combination of her, Gu Yue, and Xu Shaoan meant certain victory. Without her, the battle still held some suspense. No one was absolutely certain in the Ranker team's victory anymore. If she could defeat Xu Yucheng, then it was also possible for the remaining three to surprise them. Dark Bear Yang Niangsha roared at the sky, then charged at Gu Yue. Neither Gu Yue, Xu Shaoan, nor Xu Lizzie was skilled at close quarters combat. In Yang Niangsha's mind, victory was assured. Luo Gixing and Zheng Yuren stood right behind Yang Niangsha, determination blazing in the depths of their hearts. They hadn't expected to be battered into such a sorry state. Now, only victory could wash away the disgrace. Luo Gixing locked eyes on Gu Yue. It was a contest of control now. If he could restrain her, then his opponents would have no way of putting up a fight. Gu Yue met his gaze with cold arrogance in her eyes, holding Xu Shaoan's left hand in her right, their soul rings beginning to shine. It was then that Luo Gixing's team finally realized Xu Shaoan had gained a third soul ring. The first to act was Xu Shaoan. Her third soul ring lit up completely. Immediately, a blizzard took over and plummeted the stage into sub-zero temperatures. Then Gu Yue's first soul ring began to glow as she activated elemental tide. She didn't have a soul fusion skill with Xu Shaoan, but she could control the water element in the air to gather around them, increasing the strength of Xu Shaoan's ice bear blizzard by 30%. The blizzard immediately obscured everyone's vision. Luo Gixing's expression darkened, his gaze sharpening. This isn't good. The frigid wind suppressed the potency of Zheng Yuren's poison, and without her poison, her combat strength dropped significantly. Moreover, with the poor visibility and both sides having an equal number of 3-ring soul masters, it would devolve into a battle of attrition. Luo Gixing raised his hand and used spatial lock on Gu Yue. It was a battle over the control of space. Silver light flashed around her, as if it had succeeded, but a split second later, it disappeared. Luo Gixing failed to seal her. The biting winds of the blizzard soon bore down on them with full force, swallowing them between its icy maws. The blizzard was composed of both the ice and water elements. There was no one better than Gu Yue for bringing out the full power of Xu Shaoan's soul skill. Earlier on, they had tried to use this skill, but were interrupted by the explosion of energy from Tang Wolin and Wu Sijuo's clash. Now, they were able to unleash it and show off its might. Yang Niangsha bore the brunt of the blizzard. A layer of ice instantly formed on his body, but his body was too strong to fall from just that. He pushed forward with large strides. I just have to get close to them and we'll win. Luo Gixing switched tactics. He quickly conjured a multitude of silver lights in front of Yang Niangsha instead, deflecting some of the blizzard's strength. Zheng Yuren rushed in behind Yang Niangsha. By using him as a shield, she could just endure the frigid winds. Her entire body was dark green, her pupils 2 vertical slits. She was unable to spread her poison fog in this blizzard, but she also had some confidence in her abilities as long as she could get closer. Gu Yue raised her left hand, unleashing a barrage of wind blades. They were only a foot long, but in this raging blizzard, they rapidly gained momentum. Wind blade after wind blade merged into the blizzard, and with every new wind blade, the blizzard strengthened in ferocity and power. From the perspective of the spectators, it was nigh impossible for the rankers to penetrate the blizzard and reach their opponents. We can't let her go unchecked. The three rankers all understood how terrifying Gu Yue's storms were given sufficient time. Yang Niangsha raised his burly arms to protect his head, then ducked down and charged forward. He didn't care what sort of injuries he would suffer. He was prepared to accept it all if it meant victory. A small snake shot from Zheng Yuren in a flash of light, quickly growing until it was a 5-meter-long python. It slithered after Yang Niangsha, keeping pace right behind him. At that moment, a dozen 1-meter-long wind blades appeared out of nowhere, swerving around Yang Niangsha and straight to Zheng Yuren. Luo Gixing's face darkened as he hastily used spatial retreat. A flash of silver later, Zheng Yuren appeared back by his side. The snake, her spirit soul, wasn't as fortunate. A mournful wail pierced the air. Zheng Yuren shuddered, then fell on her butt. The python turned into a massive green light that re-entered her body. It would take a while before it could resurrect. Zheng Yuren suffered serious damage from her spirit soul dying. Meanwhile, Yang Niangsha took this opportunity to close the gap between him and his targets. Only 10 meters remained between him and Gu Yue and Xu Shaoan. Yet, as he rushed toward them, the golden ring appeared on the ground. It didn't target Yang Niangsha, but the distant Luo Gixing. With Luo Gixing and Zheng Yuren together, it was the perfect time for this golden ring to make a move. Luo Gixing had just used spatial retreat, and there was a brief moment where he couldn't use any soul skills. Golden chains shot out of the ground and bound the two of them. Then a flurry of wind blades appeared, flying straight for them. What the hell is this? How is this possible? The smile on Luo Gixing's face froze. To his shock, he realized that he couldn't use his soul power. He was like an ordinary person now. No matter how hard he fought against the chains, he couldn't move a single bit of soul power to his will. The wind blades arrived. As a controller of space, he didn't have much defensive power, and Zheng Yuren had just suffered a grievous injury. There was nothing they could do to defend themselves. Chapter 392. Xu Lizzie of the Tang sect. The instant death of the python was proof of the wind blade's lethality. Only death awaited Luo Gixing and Zheng Yuren if they were hit by it while unable to use their soul power. A beam of light descended and enveloped the two of them. The light swallowed up the wind blades without letting any harm come to the two students. Then in the next moment, the light brought Luo Gixing and Zheng Yuren to the Holy Spirit Douluo side. They were eliminated. While this was happening, Yang Niangsha finally reached Gu Yue and Xu Shaoan. Xu Shaoan stepped forward and shot an ice spear at him. Yang Niangsha swatted it with his bear paw, smashing it into pieces. Gu Yue, run. Xu Shaoan shouted as she threw open her arms and rushed forward to stop Yang Niangsha. She knew that as long as she could hold back Yang Niangsha and by some time, Gu Yue would be able to defeat him. Contrary to Luo Gixing's gloom, Yang Niangsha was filled with satisfaction now. In the end, it all comes down to my strength. He was almost upon them. There was no way he would let the two girls escape now. He grabbed for Xu Shaoan's shoulder with his left hand, careful not to seriously harm her, as he stomped with his right foot. The trembling ground was sure to disrupt Gu Yue's concentration. All 4 of my teammates have been eliminated, and in the end, it's all up to me save the day. His hand landed on Xu Shaoan's shoulder and he moved to throw her over his shoulder. But at that moment, he was kicked behind his right knee. His leg lost power and his stomp went wide, kicking into nothing but air. The sudden change in his center caused him to stumble, and he nearly fell down. Then, to his astonishment, Xu Shaoan disappeared from his grasp. In her place was the chubby Xu Lizzie. Hee. Don't forget about me. It's him. The spectators' jaws dropped. What's he doing? Yang Niangsha was struck dumb as well. From beginning to end, he had never seen Xu Lizzie as a competent. However, the fatty now stood between him and Xu Shaoan. Isn't he a food-type soul master? What was his name again? Xu Lizzie, I think. Shu Lizzie stood face to face with him, staring at Yang Nyangsha in defiance. He moved his hands in a circular motion, gentle waves of white soul power emanating from his palms. His actions startled his teammates, not to mention his opponent. Shu Lizzie's kick had saved both Xu Shaoan and Gu Yue. Isn't he a food-type soul master? Why do his actions feel so familiar? Tang Wuling stared wide-eyed. Yang Nyangsha snarled and threw a punch at Shu Lizzie. He couldn't forgive himself for being stopped by a food-type soul master. Shu Lizzie's feet danced in a mystifying pattern, moving his plump body with shocking nimbleness. He moved to the side, evading Yang Nyangsha's punch. Then he pushed out with both palms, sending Yang Nyangsha staggering back several steps. This brief exchange decided the battle. A giant fireball flew over and exploded in Yang Nyangsha's face. Yang Nyangsha's dark gold fur flared up when the blast struck him, mitigating the majority of the impact. But he still stumbled backward, and Shu Lizzie seized this opening. He hooked his foot behind Yang Nyangsha's heel while he thrusted his palm into his opponent's stomach. Yang Nyangsha stumbled back another few steps. If not for his excellent sense of balance, he would have fell onto his butt. Then another fireball flew into him and exploded. Yang Nyangsha just barely managed to raise a fist to protect himself from the blast, but Gu Yue's bombardment was just beginning. Fireballs slammed into him rapid fire. A series of booms shook the arena. Though he could just barely defend himself with his fists, there was no advancing for him now. Xu Shaoan casually walked over while condensing an ice spear in her hand. There was no suspense left in the battle. Anyone with half a brain could see that it was Tang Wuling's team's victory. The spectating students all stood in dumbstruck silence. They had thought the odds favored the rankers at the beginning, and then were sure of their victory when Wu Sijuo transformed into the Hell White Tiger. But Shishi took gravely injured Xu Yucheng and Tang Wuling took Wu Sijuo down with him. Even then, they thought the rankers the likely victors. They believed Yang Nyangsha could easily deal with Gu Yue and Xu Shaoan. However, their expectations were overturned once more. In the end, Tang Wuling's team seized victory against all expectations. Xu Shaoan gave a brilliant smile as she approached. Her third soul ring didn't only grant her blizzard, but also granted a soul skill to her Star Wheel Ice Staff. She could now use the Star Wheel shackles in broad daylight. It was this final hidden card that won them victory. She believed that even if Xu Lizzie hadn't acted, Gu Yue would have easily been able to take down Yang Nyangsha with her control over the elements and ability to teleport. Only their team understood how strong Gu Yue truly was. She hadn't even gone all out in this battle. Stop. Wu Zhangkong's cold voice resounded on stage. Yang Nyangsha stumbled a few more steps backward after the bombardment of fireballs stopped, lowering his fists to reveal a face full of shame. The match is over. Victory goes to Tang Wuling's team, Wu Zhangkong announced as he ascended to the stage. We did it. We won. Xu Shaoan grabbed Gu Yue's hand and bounced up and down with joy, tears streaming down her face. A distance away, Tang Wuling supported Shishi up, who had been treated by the Holy Spirit Douluo. Although Shishi was pale, stubborn pride gleamed in his eyes. We won. We really won. I wasn't a burden on my friends. In contrast, Tang Wuling's lips were pursed together grimly. We did it. I finally proved myself. Lending an arm to Shishi, the two walked over to join their friends on the stage. Once they were all together, they exchanged hugs and cried together, proclaiming their victory. We won. We're the winners. We're the strongest. Wu Sijuo watched from the side of the stage, utterly dumbstruck. Xu Yicheng's complexion paled further when he saw them celebrating. Luo Dixing's face was ashen, not a trace of a smile on his lips. Zheng Yuan watched in contempt. She hadn't had a chance to display her full strength throughout the entire battle. Only Yang Nyangsha still stood on stage, but he was just like the rest of the audience. The victory celebrations had nothing to do with him. The losers would be forgotten. In the middle of their celebrations, Gu Yue extracted herself from her friends and walked over to the edge of the stage, jumped down, and walked over to Yi Xinglan, who had stood up at some point and watched with clenched fists. Without giving her a chance to react, Gu Yue took her into a big hug. Chapter 393, United. Thank you. It's because of you that we won. Gu Yue whispered into Yi Xinglan's ear as she embraced her. Yi Xinglan froze, then relaxed. A hint of a smile played on her face as her cold, indifferent attitude slowly thawed. Without saying a word, she hugged Gu Yue back. They had endured hardships together, sacrificed for each other, all for the sake of their team's glory. In this battle, they unleashed their entire pent-up frustration upon the rankers and attained victory, restoring their pride. That wasn't everything though. It was in this battle that their tentative bonds became unbreakable. Gu Yue grabbed Yi Xinglan's hand and pulled her up onto the stage with her. Tang Wulin and the other three watched her approach, warmth in their gazes. Now that the whole team was together, they jumped up and cheered. Young as they were, they couldn't contain their excitement. As they celebrated, the defeated rankers slowly trudged off the stage with dark expressions. No one spoke a word. Despite having all the odds in their favor, they lost. This match was a nightmare for them. The Holy Spirit Douluo walked over to Shen Yi and Wu Zhangkong, a gentle smile gracing her lips. These kids are very promising. They're strong, brave, determined, and clever. You've taught them well. Wu Zhangkong looked at her respectfully. No. This is all their own ability. Shen Yi smiled. He may have projected calmness, but his eyes had betrayed the pride he felt when Gu Yue obtained victory for her team. Wu Zhangkong approached his disciples. Now then, his words reminded Tang Wulin and his friends that they were still on stage, and they turned to face him. You are the victors of the selection tournament and will represent the first grade in our match against the second grade. If you wish, you can select up to 2 more people from the class to join your team for a total of 7. The ranker's ears instantly perked up at his words, especially Wu Sijuo and Luo Gixing. Tang Wulin's right gauntlet was proof that at their current level, it was possible to use spirit alloys to make their one-word battle armor. They both now regretted their decision to part with Tang Wulin. They hoped that Tang Wulin would invite them back into the team. They believed that with the addition of them in Tang Wulin's team, they would become the strongest team and have a good chance of beating the second grade. Tang Wulin turned to his comrades. Do any of you want to? Xu Shaoan shrugged. Want to what? Shishi feigned ignorance. I don't know what you mean. Xu Lizzie gave a toothy smile. I'll go with whatever you guys decide. Gu Yue and Yi Xinglan exchanged a glance, then said in unison, we're good. Tang Wulin turned back to Wu Zhangkong and smiled wryly. Well, it looks like we don't want anyone else. The audience exploded into an uproar the moment the words left Tang Wulin's lips. This was a true slap to the rankers' faces. He was paying them back with interest. Wu Zhangkong was asking him if he wanted any of the rankers to join him, but the answer was a resounding no. Tang Wulin's team would be fine without them. He didn't care if they were rankers. That meant nothing to him. Wu Sijuo turned to leave. Thunderclouds seemed to gather around Luo Gixing as he made a gloomy expression. Xu Yicheng nodded then turned to leave as well. Zheng Yuan glared at Tang Wulin, huffing as she left. Only Yang Nyangsha stayed where he was, his brows drawn together pensively. The battle for supremacy finished with a surprising outcome. Tang Wulin proved his strength and would remain as the class president. Wu Zhangkong declared that class was dismissed, so the students quietly shuffled out of the hall. They were all still stunned. So the class president is actually this strong. Wu Sijuo isn't the strongest one in our class. The class president is strong enough to be her rival. I can't believe she could take Xu Yicheng down with him. Wow. Xu Shaoan isn't just a pretty face. I never thought a food-type soul master could fight in close combat, so we were all wrong. This battle had overturned many assumptions. Tang Wulin's position in his class was unshakable now. Time after time, he revealed new depths of his strength. Supporting each other, Tang Wulin's team of 6 left the hall. Their hearts were at ease now. Everyone wore huge grins, even Yi Xinglan. Lizzie, I can't believe you'd keep us in the dark like that. Why didn't you tell me you're a fellow Tang sect disciple? Tang Wulin said as he wrapped an arm around Xu Lizzie's shoulder. During the match, Xu Lizzie had used mysterious jade hands, controlling crane, capturing dragon, and ghost shadow perplexing step. Although he didn't possess the strength to directly confront Yang Nyangsha, by utilizing these secret arts in the decisive moment to shield Gu Yue and Xu Shaoan, he had bought them enough time to win victory. It was wrong to assume a food-type soul master didn't have combat power. With the mysterious heaven method reinforcing Xu Lizzie's soul power and the other Tang sect secret arts, he was more than capable of defending himself. He. Well, you never asked. Are the others members too? Xu Lizzie asked. Apart from Gu Yue, who joined the Spirit Pagoda, we're all disciples of the Tang sect. It's actually been a while since we last visited a branch and checked our class. Do you mind taking us to visit the branch later? Xu Lizzie smiled. Sure. By the way, Xinglan is a Tang sect disciple too. It looks like we're all fellow disciples. Tang Wulin looked at Yi Xinglan and spoke from the bottom of his heart. Thank you. Yi Xinglan glanced at him. No need. It was the least I could do after taking your Divine Foundation medal. We'll be fighting together against the second grade later. Don't drag me down. Tang Wulin chuckled. We'll see. Yi Xinglan cracked a smile. Tang Wulin's expression turned stern. The second grade's class is really powerful. It won't be easy to defeat them. Shishi coughed. Yeah, that's right. Xu Shaoan rolled her eyes at him. A certain someone who's always getting his ass beaten by the enemy better not leak any info. She turned beet red, not a word of retort. They knew Yuan and Yui was in the second grade. Her strength made her a far tougher opponent than Wisujuo. The Hell White Tiger Soul fusion skill may have elevated Wisujuo into a top-class soul master, but Yuan and Yui's Titan Giant Ape and Fallen Angel Martial Souls both stood at the peak. This wasn't even mentioning Yui's Hengyu, who was almost as strong as her. Then there was the other students of the second grade that they knew nothing about. It was impossible for those two to be the only powerful people in their class. In contrast to the excitement of Tang Wulin's group, gloom weighed down the gathered rankers. How did we lose? Zheng Yuan still couldn't accept the result. She just couldn't fathom how it happened. They had all believed it would be a crushing victory. They even thought that just sending out Wisujuo and two others would be enough to win, but they lost. They were thoroughly defeated, right in front of all of their peers, in a simple contest of strength without any trickery. Even now, they couldn't comprehend how Tang Wulin's team could be so strong. Tang Wulin's team may have better teamwork than them, but that shouldn't have been enough to overcome the gap in strength. Still, there was no use in arguing over that now. Yang Niangsha looked the calmest of them all. He simply shrugged. The important thing is that they surpassed our expectations. Who would have thought she would stake it all to take down Xu Yucheng? We never expected Tang Wulin to be able to hold his ground against Wisujuo either. It wasn't just because of his battle armor. The dragon's roar and the aura around him towards the end was terrifying. I didn't even dare approach him. He might only have obtained his third soul ring recently, but he's improving every day. His speed of growth is frightening. Everyone but Luo Gixing nodded in agreement with Yang Niangsha's analysis. Wisujuo narrowed her eyes. Yeah. We underestimated him. I didn't believe he would succeed in making the gauntlet with the spirit alloy. Its amplification effects are far better than an ordinary one-word battle armor piece. There's no way he could have unleashed so much power otherwise. Chapter 394. Secret weapon. At this point, Wisujuo still could not accept that she had lost to Tang Wulin. To be accurate, they had both fallen by each other's hands, but that still hurt her pride. Although she had the edge on him, she couldn't contend with his body's absolute strength. Plus, he had the aid of a food-type soul master. His recovery speed naturally would be faster than hers. On the other hand, Wisujuo would be left severely weakened after using Hell White Tiger, considering it took 3 days to recharge. Any misuse was detrimental. Because of this, she could justify her first loss to Gu Yue, pinning it on being weakened after using Hell White Tiger. This time, however, she had no excuses. The most frustrating part was that Tang Wulin had succeeded in crafting his right gauntlet. Although a single piece of armor was far from a complete set, it still marked an excellent start to the path of a battle armor master. The implication was that the rest of Tang Wulin's one-word battle armor would be as exceptional as his gauntlet. Not to mention, advancing to a two-word battle armor master would be several times easier in the future. The might of his armor would surpass those of the same level, and he would be far more compatible with it. Wisujuo held absolute confidence in her martial souls. However, she understood that be it her, Luo Gixing, or the others, they were all late for start of the race in becoming battle armor masters. Furthermore, without the aid of a fifth-ranked blacksmith like Tang Wulin, it would be impossible to craft one-word battle armor with alloys. She already cut ties with Tang Wulin, and it was nigh impossible for her to restore their relationship. There was no going back now. This was the path she chose. We didn't lose in strength. We lost in teamwork, said Luo Gixing. His brows were relaxed, features permeated with his usual calm. Each of us is stronger than any one of them. Just as we anticipated, Tang Wulin and Gu Yue are formidable, and the other three pale in comparison. Still, Xu Shaoan and Xu Lizi's strength went beyond our expectations. This is what sealed their victory, but if you meticulously review today's events, you'll recall their confidence in winning since the very beginning. Where did that confidence come from? Well, let me tell you, it's their team cohesion. They moved together as one while we acted independently. That's the cause of our defeat. He shook his head, a hint of humility in his smile. It was my mistake. As the leader, I wasn't able to meld you guys into one whole unit. I was too lacking. This defeat is my responsibility to bear. Zheng Yuan stared at him in a daze. You'll bear this responsibility? What are you talking about? It's only natural that there's a price to pay for making a mistake, Luo Gixing said. Once everyone has cooled their heads, I'll go find Tang Wulin. What are you going to find him for? Wisujuo asked in confusion. Luo Gixing's smile grew a bit wider. To apologize. Even if we can't be friends with him, we don't have to be enemies either. In the end, we're still classmates. Wouldn't it be a waste to not be friendly with such an outstanding class president and blacksmith? His words struck them hard. Slowly rising from his seat, Xu Yucheng stared Luo Gixing straight in the eyes. My skin definitely isn't as thick as yours. I can accept why I'm ranked below you now. Luo Gixing sighed. That's precisely the issue. We care too much about the rankings. Otherwise, we wouldn't have underestimated Tang Wulin's team. I'm not going to treat myself as a genius anymore. No, I'm someone who has fallen behind. We need catch up step by step and not fall behind any further. At the very least, we need to make sure we're part of the strongest first grade class in all of history. We may have been defeated this time, but failure is the mother of success. We need to improve our team cohesion. He extended his right hand, determination blazing in his eyes. To his surprise, it was Xu Yucheng, the one who had disagreed with him the most, who threw his hand on top of Luo Gixing's first. The two shared a look, sparks flying. Defeat had roused their competitive spirit. That said, a single loss was not the end of the world for them. They just had to work hard not to taste defeat again. Yang Niangsha chuckled, then placed his hand on top of Xu Yucheng's. Zheng Yuan's mouth twitched. Even so, she slowly added her hand to the pile as well. Watching the scene before her, Wisujuo sucked in a deep breath. You're right. We're playing catch up now. She was the last to throw her hand in. Luo Gixing's words resonated with all of them, kindling the fire in their hearts. What they needed now was cohesion. Back in the working students' dormitory, a knock sounded on the door of Tang Wulin and the others' room. Xu Shaoan was the quickest to jump off her bed and ran over to answer it. To her surprise, it was Yue's Hengyu. There was a strange gleam in his eyes, a hint of hesitation in his stance. Hengyu, come on in. Tang Wulin was fully recovered by now. 2 bloodthirst being barns for nothing to his body. In contrast, Shishi still lay immobile in his bed. Everyone's gaze fell on Yue's Hengyu as he entered the room. Since it wasn't bedtime yet, the curtain wasn't pulled up to separate the boys half from the girls. Out of Tang Wulin's team, only Shishi, Dou Yue, Xu Shaoan, and himself were present. Xu Lizzie and Yu Xingling were nowhere in sight. Because they weren't working students, they didn't live in the working students' dormitory, and slept in the dormitory in the school building instead. However, for the sake of convenience, they applied to become working students as well and were preparing to live together with Tang Wulin and the others. With 3 boys and 3 girls, it would be easy to split the group into 2 rooms when the time came. He flashed them a smile in return. I heard you guys won in your classes tournament. Congratulations. Tang Wulin turned to him, suspicion thick in his stare. You're not here to probe us. Yue's Hengyu laughed. Of course not. Do you really think I would do something like that? It's just that I heard some rumors about you equipping a piece of battle armor in your battle. Is that true? Have you already made a piece of battle armor and from spirit alloy? Tang Wulin struggled to suppress the bubbles of laughter from erupting from his mouth, failing in the end. Wow, you heard about it real fast. It's true, all thanks to Xingling. Xingling? Who's that? Yue's Hengyu stared blankly at Tang Wulin. We're about to face each other as opponents. Why would I give you any info? Tang Wulin smiled mysteriously. Yue's Hengyu chuckled. I'm a mega maker. I was about to start making my battle armor. I'm not trying to take advantage of you. At the sound of those words, Tang Wulin's heart thumped hard within his chest. We have our own secret weapons, you know. All I'll tell you is that with them, our success rate for making battle armor rises to 30%. Yue's Hengyu's eyes lit up. 30%? Are you sure? Tang Wulin nodded. The bloodthirst bean buns certainly increased their chances that far. Although food-type soul masters were weak in battle, their versatility was matchless, even better than support-type masters. If not for Xu Lizi's talents, directly entering the inner court would have been a fruitless dream. Yue's Hengyu could barely keep his excitement from bursting out. His eyes were ablaze as he stared down Tang Wulin. How about you lend me your secret weapon? I'll pay you contribution points. Tang Wulin shrugged. Sure. But you'll have to wait until after our match. In a flash, Yue's Hengyu's expression soured. That's so petty. The match is just 3 days away. Even if you lend me your secret weapon, I won't be able to make a piece of battle armor that quickly. The designs for my battle armor aren't even finished yet. Being in the second grade, he was in a greater rush than a first grade student in creating a battle armor set. When he heard Tang Wulin had created a piece of armor with a spirit alloy, his heart was provoked. All of a sudden, there was a knock on the door. Xu Shaoan laughed, jumping to let in the guest. There sure are a lot of people visiting today. I bet it's Yuanan. If you guys don't believe me, then just watch. Chapter 395, the real class president. Xu Shaoan opened the door, just as she had said. It was Yuan and Yui in the flesh. The sight of Yue's Hangyu took Yuan and Yui by surprise, lips morphing into a frown as she stepped into the room. What are you doing here? Yue's Hangyu glared half-heartedly at her. Why can't I be here? Though he spoke sarcastically, there was no steel to his words. After helping Yuan and Yui obtain her fourth soul ring, Yue's Hangyu understood the gap that existed between them. Coupled with the fact that she wasn't an evil soul master, he had no reason to trouble her anymore. Yuan and Yui promptly ignored him and turned to Tang Wuling. Help me make my battle armor. What do you want in exchange? Tang Wuling shrugged. I need to know what your profession is first. I'm a third-rank mecha maker, said Yue's Hangyu, but I'm on the edge of the fourth rank. It shouldn't take me more than a month to break through. Yuan and Yui furrowed her brow. I'm a mechanic. Fourth rank. A mechanic. Tang Wuling hadn't expected her to be a mechanic, and a fourth rank one as well. A pensive look crossed Tang Wuling's face. Okay. Sang Yu, you can make your own and we'll lend you our secret weapon for a fee. But for you, Yuanan, we'll need to cover the alloys and provide a maker for you. Do you have a design? How about other options? Yuan and Yui shook her head. I've always been cultivating with a focus on harmonizing my two martial souls. Plus, because I have twin martial souls, it's harder to craft a battle armor for me. I haven't been satisfied with anyone's designs yet. Gu Yue's eyes gleamed, her excitement practically tangible. Designing battle armor for twin martial souls sounds like a good challenge. I'll need a lot of time to do it though. Also, if you really want a satisfying design, I think we'll have to wait until I'm a higher rank. All right. I'll start saving contribution points then, Yuan and Yui said. She spun on her heel to leave, stopping abruptly at the door. Then she turned back around. Thank you. Huh. She shot up from his bed. Yuan and Yui's expression froze, body stiffening like plank. Then she made a 180 and left. At the sound of the door shutting, everyone exchanged glances before staring at Shi. PFFT. Xu Shaoan was the first to giggle, the rest following after her until they were roaring with laughter. Shi flushed beet red as he shouted, "What's so funny about getting up when my name's called?" Humph. Eventually, Yue's Hangyu got up to leave. He needed to save up contribution points. No matter how good his relationship with Tang Wuling was, he couldn't ask Tang Wuling to do this as a favor. They were all students at Shrek Academy. They all carried a mountain of pressure on their shoulders. Rarely would someone take time out of their own busy schedule to help someone else out of the goodness of their heart, especially if the latter wasn't even in the same class. Tang Wuling made for his workshop after taking his time to recover. He shouldered the most responsibility of anyone on his team. He needed to forge alloys both for his teammates and for his clients Yuan and Yui and Yue's Hangyu. 8 people in total. Although they were each working on one piece of battle armor first, making it one piece of alloy per member, it was still hard to produce. He had to forge as much as possible to produce pieces he deemed adequate. Tang Wuling was no perfectionist, but he refused to compromise when it came to his own battle armor, only using alloys with a 90% harmony rate or higher. Yue's Hangyu and New England were just as unyielding as him, so there was no way he'd skimp on the medals for his teammates. However, forging such alloys was easier said than done. Now that he had his third soul ring, cultivating was no longer his main priority. On the top of his list was improving his blacksmithing skill. Additionally, Tang Wuling's routine changed. No longer did he run in the morning, as it did nothing to improve his body the way he was now. His time was better spent cultivating, blacksmithing, or eating. After all, eating was an important method of cultivation, especially when there was an abundance of nutritious food available. These days, Xu Lizzie joined Tang Wuling for every meal. Eating together kindled their appetites. The news of how Tang Wuling led his team to victory spread like wildfire. He was already famous throughout the first, second, and third grades. His name whispered wherever he went. It was a complete upset, no doubt about it. The Genius Youth ranking held a lot of weight in the outer court. The 5 rankers were still too young and weak to be on the continental rankings, but etching their names onto the Genius Youth ranking was proof of their strength. Yet the team of rankers, led by Wisujuo in the top 10, was defeated by a bunch of nameless people. Tang Wuling's team's victory went beyond inconceivable. It was a miracle. The academy respected the privacy of its students, so there were no recordings of the battle available to the public. As such, Tang Wuling became an enigmatic figure, the subject of many rumors. This also marked the first time he entered the sights of the other grades. Due to Tang Wuling's newfound fame, countless eyes were on him during breakfast. Many of those eyes belonged to girls his age attracted by his pretty face. In Shrek Academy, a pleasing appearance wasn't the most captivating trait. Strength was. However, after strength came looks. Tang Wuling fit the bill for what many girls were looking for in a man. Although he was only 13 years old, he possessed a mature temperament. Large doe eyes framed by long eyelashes. Neat, symmetrical face. These were all to the girls' liking. In fact, he was swarmed by girls on the way to the dining hall, from both his class and other classes. They asked for his number, and good-natured as he was, he complied without any complaints. Wow. Wuling, you're so popular. Xu Lizzie was green with envy. Tang Wuling smiled. That's because of yesterday's victory. Xu Lizzie shrugged at his words. I'm part of the team too, so why aren't any girls asking for my number? Don't try to trick me. It's your good looks that's getting you all the girls. He threw his head back, barely shaking in a laugh. I got my good looks from my parents. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just genetics. After this healthy bit of banter, Yue, Shi, and Xu Shaoan finished their meals and left for class. This left Tang Wuling to stew in his thoughts about his parents. His heart trembled. Several years had passed since he lost word of them. If his parents returned, or contacted Nang Tian, they would definitely give him a call. Sadly, he waited for that call every day to no avail. Hello, class president. Someone's voice interrupted his thoughts. Tang Wuling looked up to see a familiar-looking classmate. Hello, he answered with a faint smile on his lips. Just like this, countless people greeted him before he even stepped foot in the classroom. This reaffirmed something he knew, branding it to his heart. If I want others to respect me, then I can only rely on myself. Tang Wuling neither let yesterday's victory get to his head nor bore a grudge for the way his classmates treated him previously. He always answered their greetings with a splendid smile, as if they had never ostracized him. As he finally reached the classroom, stepping through the doorway, one other person received him respectfully. Good morning, class president. Good morning. Tang Wuling answered subconsciously, freezing for a second when he recognized the voice. He whipped his head to the direction of the speaker. It was Luo Gixing. Their gazes locked. Luo Gixing smiled his trademark smile and stepped to the side, gesturing for Tang Wuling to proceed. Currently, the classroom was 2/3 full. No one had thought much of Luo Gixing waiting by the door, but at the sight of Luo Gixing respectfully greeting Tang Wuling, the entire class went silent in an instant. What they had witnessed just now signified one thing. Luo Gixing was admitting defeat. Chapter 396. Freely admit defeat. Oh, and submit. Luo Gixing was admitting defeat on behalf of the rankers. The other students still harbored doubt since Tang Wuling's team had won by the skin of their teeth, but the 5 rankers were backing down. Each of the 5 continued to shine individually, but they now fully recognized Tang Wuling as their class president. No one else dared to challenge him. His position as the class president firmly cemented. Luo Gixing's actions stunned him, but after a moment, Tang Wuling smiled and nodded, then walked over to his seat. As if nothing major just happened, Luo Gixing returned to his own seat as well, wearing his usual carefree smile. Zheng Yuren stood nearby at Yang Naiansh's side, her lips curled into a sneer. No wonder Xu Yucheng said he couldn't match up to Luo Gixing yesterday. That guy's skin is just too thick. I would never be able to kiss us like that. Yang Naiansha glanced at her. You could learn a thing or two from him. A man of character knows when to bow and submit, but still, compared to Tang Wuling, Luo Gixing lacks a certain charm. A kind of charisma. Now that I'm looking at him properly, Tang Wuling really is fit to be the class president. Zheng Yuren stared at Yang Naiansha. Have you gone crazy? Are you still not convinced? Zheng Yuren snorted. I'm different from you guys. Poison users like me focus on one strike kills. So what if he's strong? He's nothing compared to my jade phosphorus snake venom. Why should I acknowledge him? Yang Naiansha shrugged. You do you then. I'm gonna go sit down, coward. Zheng Yuan watched Yang Nianxia leave, her eyes full of disdain. Then she looked back to Tang Wulin. She didn't know it yet, but she now saw Tang Wulin in a different light. Even if she were aware of this, she would refuse to admit it. Class went by like normal. Wei Zhangkong and Shen Yi didn't comment on the match from the day before. Everyone who made it into Shrek Academy was extremely bright and could make their own conjectures. No matter how strong one was, a loss was a loss, and conclusions reached on the battlefield were eternal. Attending class was actually the most relaxed part of Tang Wulin's daily schedule. His spiritual power was quite high now, so he had no trouble soaking up the lecture material. It was only during class that he had the chance to relax his body. His afternoons were spent blacksmithing and his evenings were spent cultivating, both of which left him exhausted. He currently didn't bother with combat training. The match against the second grade was only 3 days away. There was no use sharpening his blade any further. He and his team were as prepared as they would ever be. Yuan and Yui and Yui's Heng Yu were definitely going to be on the opposing team, so Tang Wulin drew up some plans against them. The only thing that made him nervous was what Yuan and Yui got for her fourth soul skill. 3 days later, Elder Kai faced Wu Zhangkong, Shen Yi, and the teacher in charge of the second grade. Today, I will be personally overseeing the match between your two classes. The academy has decided to reward the winners with contribution points. That's Wu Zhangkong and Shen Yi exchanged a look, then looked to the second grade's teacher. They were all astonished by Elder Kai's words. Although Elder Kai was the headmaster of the outer court, she rarely intervened in its affairs. At her level, her time was better spent cultivating. Becoming a titled Douluo was not the end of a soul master's path. One still had to continue cultivating, improving themselves, and consolidating their energies. This, along with the aid of battle armor, would slow down their aging. Yet the Silver Moon Douluo deigned to spend some of her time watching today's match between the first and second grades. It was clear just how much she valued them. This also wasn't the first time she observed the first grade's battles. She had also been present for the selection tournament, just hidden from the view of the students. Am I not welcome to do so? Elder Kai swept her gaze across the three teachers. Of course you are, Shen Yi said hastily, but Elder Kai normally wouldn't care about such trivial matters. Good. Let's go then. Elder Kai had arrived like a storm and left just as quickly. Wu Zhangkong and Shen Yi were helpless when it came to Elder Kai. They were about to head over to the arena for the match when Elder Kai summoned them. Since the headmaster of the outer court would be observing, this match instantly became an event of utmost importance. But this wasn't what Wu Zhangkong and Shen Yi wanted. The age gap between grades wasn't a single year, but 3. They weren't really optimistic about their class's chances of winning. Although 5 of the rankers were in the first grade, the academy kept every student's personal data a secret from the outside world. This meant that the rankings didn't account for students of Shrek Academy from the moment they began attending. The amount of growth one could achieve in 3 years at Shrek Academy definitely wasn't small. With the eyes of the academy's higher-ups now trained on the first grade, a devastating loss would be horrible. The arena was bustling with students from the first and second grades, all of them bursting with excitement and anxious to witness the battle between the champions of each grade. The first grade students were all 13 or 14 years old. The second grade students, on the other hand, ranged from ages 15 to 17. This was due to the fact that there was a limit on how old new students could be, yet there was no minimum requirement. The students of the first grade were jumping with enthusiasm while those of the second grade were relatively calmer. The difference between them was clear. Yuan and Yui stood at the floor of the second grade. The reverence the second grade students held for her showed in their eyes. It only took a single look from her for the entire class to quiet down. Every student in that class united under her. Several days had passed since the selection tournament, and things had calmed down in the first grade. Since Luo Gixing back down, none had reason to oppose Tang Wulin any further, but habits weren't so easily broken. Tang Wulin watched Yuan and Yui and she watched him. Neither said anything. Right now, they stood as representatives of their respective classes, and as opponents. The teachers walked into the arena. At the very front of the procession was the stunning Holy Spirit Douluo. To the astonishment of the students, the Silver Moon Douluo walked beside her. However, what truly shocked Tang Wulin was the fact that Elder Kai was a half a step behind the Holy Spirit Douluo. This served as proof of the Holy Spirit Douluo's status in Shrek Academy. Tang Wulin was certain she still had many secrets. Her main ability had to do with healing, yet her position was even higher than that of her fellow titled Douluo. The Silver Moon Douluo. Chapter 397. The Twin Dragons arrive. Huh. He came too. To Tang Wulin's surprise, Elderly followed the Holy Spirit Douluo and the Silver Moon Douluo, both of which came from the Sea God's Pavilion. Is he from the Sea God's Pavilion? Even if he isn't, his position has got to be really high up. Trailing behind these 3 illustrious figures were Wu Zhangkong, Shen Yi, the teacher in charge of the second grade, and some profession teachers. There's a lot of important people here today, boss. Shishi whispered anxiously. Tang Wulin looked at him. We'll just have to do our best then. Shishi nodded in agreement, then snuck a glance at Yuan and Yui. He didn't know why, but he felt that there was something different about her. As the powerful leader of the second grade, she wasn't their dorm member that day. Shishi felt a bit nervous in the face of her imposing aura. He still remembered the thrashing she had given him, fear lingering in his heart. The teachers took their seats on a raised platform that overlooked the arena. Not even a moment later, the door to the arena opened and 2 more people walked in. They were arguing with each other as they entered. What the hell are you doing here? The elderly man on the left said to the one on the right, I'm here to see my disciple stomp his competition. At the very least, none of those brats in the second grade can challenge him. I'm more interested in seeing his progress. Why are you here? Don't you have things to do on Sea God's Island? This is the outer court. You shouldn't have any business here. I'm here to check how much my grand disciple has grown. I heard he defeated the Hell White Tiger, so I'm curious if he was able to because he mastered the secret art I taught him. Bah. You taught him nothing but shit. Don't lead my disciple astray with your tricks. Have you gone mad? You crazy old bastard. I swear, if you dare deceive my disciple, I'll butcher you. Butcher me. I'm the one who'll kill you. Bring it on. Don't think I won't do it. You're just a craftsman. If you think you got what it takes, let's fight. I only need 1 minute to beat you to a pulp. Bullshit. The people who had just entered were Tang Wulin's blacksmithing teacher, Blazing Dragon Douluo Feng Wuyu, and his grand teacher, Scarlet Dragon Douluo Chuoshi. As the two quarreled, their eyes landed on Tang Wulin. Fortunately for him, they still had some reason left in them and didn't run over to him. They ascended the platform and took their seats with the rest of the elders. They gave a slight nod of greeting when they saw the Silver Moon Douluo, but as soon as they saw the Holy Spirit Douluo, they leapt to their feet, backs ramrod straight. Chuoshi ran over to her hastily. Yali, how are you today? The Holy Spirit Douluo glanced at him. I'm here as the referee today. Feng Wuyu popped up on the other side of her, rubbing his hands nervously. Yali, long time no see. With his purple demon eyes, Tang Wulin could clearly see what was happening on the platform. He was stunned by the expression on Feng Wuyu's face. Since when could teacher act so bashfully? Why is his face so red? Chuoshi turned to the Silver Moon Douluo. Why don't we talk for a bit, Yua? Elder Kai rolled her eyes at him. Why are you two here? If you want to watch the match, then do so quietly. Otherwise, get lost. Isn't it normal for me, an elder of the Sea God's Pavilion, to come watch matches in the outer court? I'm not a blacksmith just coming for entertainment. What's that about blacksmiths? If it weren't for us, would you have battle armor? Just you wait. Once you reach the forward level, I'll tell Zhenhua to leave your ass uncovered when crafting your battle armor. Then you can go fight with a bare ass. I've already tolerated you for a long time, Feng Wuyu, but don't you dare provoke me in front of Yali. I'll whip your ass. I'm not afraid of you. Bring it on. Enough. The Holy Spirit Douluo barked, giving them a sharp look. Like obedient dogs, the 2 old men ceased their bickering and shut up. Despite their anger, they said no more. You two were late, so sit in the second row. Don't disturb the children, said the Silver Moon Douluo. Oh. Feng Wuyu tiptoed to the back row. Okay. Chuoshi rushed to the seat directly behind the Holy Spirit Douluo. I'll sit behind you. Feng Wuyu was a step too late. He glared at Chuoshi, but Chuoshi didn't budge. The two then began shoving each other. The Holy Spirit Douluo frowned, and without turning back to face them, said, if you two can't settle down, then leave. Yeah. Chuoshi pointed at Feng Wuyu. Settle down. That got the Holy Spirit Douluo to turn around, and she glared at them. Her burning gaze immediately silenced the twin dragons, and they quietly took their seats. She shook her head helplessly, turning back to the stage. Only then did Elder Kai gesture to Shen Yi. Hello students of the first and second grade, Shen Yi said, rising from her seat. I am Shen Yi, the teacher for the first grade. Today's competition will be overseen by the Holy Spirit Douluo and the Silver Moon Douluo. After speaking with the second grade's teacher, we have decided that, in the interest of saving time, each profession's match will consist of one challenge. Now, would both grades' representative blacksmiths come up to the stage? Two massive forging tables had already been prepared on stage. Today's competition had the two classes competing in every aspect. They would first begin with the professions, blacksmiths, designers, makers, and mechanics. The team battle would come last. As his class's blacksmith representative, the first battle was Tang Wulin's to fight. He went up onto the stage. Feng Wuyu had a proud look in his eye as he turned to Chawoshi. You'll see what it means to steamroll someone in just a moment. Chawoshi rolled his eyes. That's just because my grandiscal is that talented. This has nothing to do with you. I'm his blacksmithing teacher. How does it have nothing to do with me? Feng Wuyu fumed. All right, fine. Let me ask you then, what blacksmith rank was my granddisciple when he first got here? The 5th rank. Feng Wuyu answered immediately. And what rank is he now? The 5th rank. Feng Wuyu failed to realize his mistake in time. Chawoshi gave him a look of disdain. My granddisciple was already a 5th rank blacksmith when he arrived, which is more than enough to show that he's a blacksmithing genius. He's still a 5th rank right now, which shows you're a useless teacher. He hasn't improved one bit. Nonsense. Feng Wuyu growled and grabbed Chawoshi by his collar. Things aren't that black and white. Chawoshi didn't resist, and instead simply snorted. What are you doing? Attacking those above you. A red hue seeped into Feng Wuyu's eyes. How the hell are you above me? Chawoshi smirked. You're my granddisciple's master, and I'm his grandteacher. You and I are from different generations. When you see me, you should at least call me Uncle Master, if not Master. Doesn't that mean you're offending your senior by grabbing me? The Holy Spirit Douluo turned around and glared at them once more. You two. Behave or get out. Feng Wuyu let go of Chawoshi and lowered his head, acting as if the commotion had nothing to do with him at all. Chawoshi lifted his hands helplessly and shrugged. Then he pinched his fingers and zipped his mouth shut. He didn't say another word. Shrek's twin dragons finally settled down. Elder Kai smiled and whispered into the Holy Spirit Douluo's ear. As expected of you, you're the only one who can keep those two in line. I'm no match for you when it comes to them. The Holy Spirit Douluo shook her head. They're just a pair of buffoons. At that moment, Tang Wulin and his opponent arrived on stage. The boy that stood across from Tang Wulin looked far older than him, about 16 or 17 years old. He had an average appearance and height. The only thing that really caught Tang Wulin's attention was the boy's large hands and muscular arms. He clearly had a calm disposition. His eyes had been glued to the forging table since he arrived. He didn't spare Tang Wulin a single glance. Tang Wulin nodded to himself at his opponent's behavior. As expected of the second grade, he's definitely their best blacksmith. This wouldn't be an easy win for him. Greetings, senior. My name is Tang Wulin. The boy finally looked at him and nodded. He's Outgang, blacksmith representative of the second grade. Chapter 398, the first match. Shen Yu stepped forward, coming to a stop at the edge of the platform that overlooked the arena. The first match of today is the blacksmith's exchange. The subject is metal purification. Both of you will be granted a piece of titanium crystal and will have 30 minutes to purify it. Whoever is able to purify it the most will be the winner. They will also be granted 1,000 points, some course credit, and permission to keep both finished products. The first grade will receive 30% more if they win. Titanium crystal. Tang Wulin furrowed his brow at the thought. Some metals were especially hard to forge, a fact that was almost always the result of extreme innate qualities. They were usually too hard or too soft. Titanium crystal was definitely one such metal. It was infamously hard to purify, exceedingly tough, and just as brittle. If a blacksmith used too much strength to forge it, or too little even, they would fail. Blacksmiths had to put a lot more effort into forging metals like it to get a decent result, and because of this, few were capable of forging titanium crystal. However, titanium crystal became far stronger than other metals after being purified and refined. It was common for highly skilled blacksmiths to add some to an alloy to raise that alloy strength. As a reflection of its amazing properties, titanium crystal cost 60 times more per kilogram than heavy silver. With all that in mind, when Shen Yu declared that the winner could keep both of the forged products, Tang Wulin and his Outgang's gazes sharpened. Their eyes burned hot with determination, which was especially true for Tang Wulin since he understood just how valuable titanium crystal was. It was nearly impossible for the wealthy to obtain, not to mention normal civilians. The Federation considered it a strategic military resource and heavily restricted its supply. Tang Wulin never expected the Academy to offer two pieces just like that. A piece of titanium crystal sat atop both of the forging tables on the stage. Each was about a foot in diameter and abnormally round, almost resembling a crystal ball. Countless intertwining golden threads could be seen within both pieces. The difficulty in forging titanium crystal lay in the need to simultaneously reduce its bulk while untangling the golden threads inside of it. The better the threads were handled, the better the final product would be. It was said that the Tangsex founder had used the golden threads of a titanium crystal to craft a powerful hidden weapon. Back in East City, Tang Wulin had been fortunate enough to get the chance to forge some titanium crystal. Mu Chen was the one to thank for that opportunity, but in return, Tang Wulin hadn't been allowed to keep the titanium crystal after forging it. To the Blacksmiths Association, it was a rare commodity. Yet, just the experience of forging it was extremely valuable to Tang Wulin, and that experience now brought him confidence. With practice movements, Tang Wulin and his Outgang placed their pieces within the forging table and began calcining the titanium crystal. Different metals took different lengths of time to calcine. The forging table they both used was top of the line, loaded with the latest tech that made it beyond easy to control the temperature and calcining period. Every blacksmith had their own forging style, and this included how they calcined metal. It was a matter of what forging philosophies they followed. The timer will begin once you finish calcining the metal, Shen Yu said. Tang Wulin and his Outgang focused on calcining the metal. Neither spoke a single word. Coincidentally, the two also closed their eyes. The titled Douluos watching from the platform gave slight nods of approval. Shrek Academy had spared no effort in raising blacksmiths in recent years, even granting extra credit to skilled blacksmiths who took the entrance exam. The Academy was simply too lacking in the blacksmiths department. This was also why Feng Wuyu personally led the Blacksmiths Association and focused on rapidly developing it. Shrek Academy aimed to nurture a divine blacksmith. It had numerous titled Douluo, but few four-word battle armor masters. This was all due to the fact that only one divine blacksmith currently lived. That was Zen Hua, the president of the Blacksmiths Association, and the only person in existence who could heavenly refine metal. As the president of the Blacksmiths Association, there was a limit to how much preference Zen Hua could show Shrek Academy. There were other major powers that he needed to forge for. His schedule was packed beyond belief, and he could only meet a small portion of the forging requests he received. All powers were doing their best to entice him to work for them, but in the end, he was only one man, the only divine blacksmith in the world. Feng Wuyu had been a saint blacksmith for many years now, but he knew he was a ways away from becoming a divine blacksmith. Truth be told, it was practically impossible for him. He had started walking the path of a blacksmith too late. His high cultivation level allowed him to reach his current level in blacksmithing, but in order to advance further, he needed more than just that. This was why he placed his hopes on Tang Wulin. In his eyes, Tang Wulin was a promising youth who could one day learn to heavenly refine and become the next generation's divine blacksmith. Although there were far fewer blacksmiths than any other profession, Shrek Academy had a total of 20 in its first and second grades because of the resources it put into recruiting them. 18 of them sat in the audience with bated breath, waiting for Tang Wulin and his Outgang to start forging. Tang Wulin spread his arms, a silver hammer appearing in each of his hands. He pressed a button on the forging table, signaling that the titanium crystal was done calcining. The forging table split in the middle, opening up and allowing a glowing red piece of titanium crystal to rise from its depths. Situated across from Tang Wulin, his Outgang noticed what was happening. His ear twitched and he furrowed his brow. The blacksmiths in the audience all cried out in alarm. He finished so quickly. A barrier sealed the stage off from the outside world, so neither Tang Wulin nor his Outgang could hear the surprised shouts. The audience was utterly shocked. Even the blacksmiths of the first grade, Yang Nyangsha included, didn't dare believe their eyes. They all knew that, due to how brittle titanium crystal was, it required a longer calcining period than normal. Only by calcining it longer would it become soft and easier to forge. To them, Tang Wulin had calcined it too quickly. He had only allowed it to calcine for as long as any other metal. Everyone in the audience was more or less thinking the same thing. Could it be? Does he not understand what titanium crystal is? If he doesn't, then he's in trouble. When forging titanium crystal, a blacksmith's greatest fear was the possibility of it cracking. If it did, its quality would immediately plummet. This fear, as well as any other kinds of damage, was also the reason why it was stored away immediately after being mined. Has our past president never forged this metal before? To be fair, it is really rare. Tang Wolin was oblivious to what was going on off stage. His eyes only reflected the glowing piece of titanium crystal. The forging table had closed back up, and the titanium crystal now sat atop it. Without even the slightest bit of hesitation, Tang Wolin swung his left hammer. Tang Wolin was about to show them the art of forging. He's already starting. Tang Wolin's hammer struck the titanium crystal, 3 melodious notes filling the air. They were the gentlest of strikes, all of which sounded like a pin dropping to the ground. Each note was crisp and clear for everyone to hear. They were music to the ear. Tang Wolin's right hammer followed soon after, and another set of sweet sounds rang out. His hands moved deftly in concert with each other, gently striking the titanium crystal as if he was softly pricking it with needles, filling the air with a delicate symphony. Chapter 399, A Powerful Opponent. Tang Wolin's arms began moving faster and faster, his hammers thundering down upon the titanium crystal like a raging storm. Although forging hammers didn't have a standard weight, hammers were generally better if they weighed more. Tang Wolin's hammers certainly weren't light. In spite of that, he swung them easily, his arms resembling a windmill as he continuously struck the titanium crystal. Crisp metallic notes resounding throughout the arena, and the sounds soon began ringing out so fast that they blended together to form one clear, everlasting note. The music of a craftsman filled the air. It was a wondrous experience for everyone in the audience. Tang Wolin circled the metal as he forged it, continuously adjusting the angle of his strikes. But as time passed, no change seemed to occur to the titanium crystal's mass. It was almost as if Tang Wolin's strikes were too soft. Can you even call that forging? Many of the spectating blacksmiths started Tang Wolin's forging method. Although they were shocked by how precise Tang Wolin's control was, they didn't see how such light taps could be effective for refining the metal. Is he just using a flashy technique to try and show off? All that matters in the end is how much he can purify the metal. He's only got 30 minutes. There's no way he'll be able to finish in time with such a gentle forging technique. Tang Wolin's forging astonished his zapping as well. The rhythmic hammering sent shivers down his spine, but a moment later, he regained his wits and turned his attention back to his own table. The worst thing that could happen when two blacksmiths forged in close proximity was one being disturbed by the other. His zapping was just a youth, but he had started blacksmithing at a young age. His foundation as a blacksmith was impressive, and he easily pushed any distractions out of his mind. He made himself deaf to Tang Wolin's hammering and focused on his own work. Of all the blacksmiths present, only Feng Wuyu subtly nodded in approval of Tang Wolin's actions, a proud smile forming on his lips. Why is he forging like that? She couldn't help but ask Feng Wuyu. He may have been the powerful scarlet dragon Douluo, but he knew little more than the next person when it came to blacksmithing. At that moment, possibly because he was overcome with pride in Tang Wolin, Feng Wuyu didn't just outright patronize Shi. Look carefully. It might look like Wolin is forging it very gently, but each strike carries just enough force to penetrate the titanium crystal. Although it hasn't reduced in size, the golden threads inside the metal are being manipulated, almost as if he was spinning silk from it. He's straightening the golden threads first so he can find the veins and life source of the titanium crystal. Once he accomplishes that, he will then awaken its spirit. He's forging it from inside out. This is the most suitable forging method for a high-quality metal like titanium crystal. Of course, laymen like you would never have heard of this. Only blacksmiths rank 5th and above are capable of using this technique, and even then, not everyone can do it. Feng Wuyu chuckled with satisfaction. Just you wait. You'll see how skilled my disciple is. Shi rolled his eyes at Feng Wuyu's smug expression, but didn't bother responding. He was just happy that someone knew how talented his grand disciple was. And Feng Wuyu was right. Anyone watching closely would be able to see the golden threads within Tang Wolin's piece of titanium crystal gradually transforming. The rough edges of the metal started becoming smooth, and most importantly, the golden threads shone brighter and brighter as he continued to hammer the metal. It was then that his zapping finally started his forging process. He pushed the button on the table and a glowing hot piece of titanium crystal appeared. Unlike Tang Wolin's piece, the golden threads within his zappings couldn't be seen at all. It simply looked like a ball of fire. A pair of pitch black hammers appeared in his zapping's hands, and he struck with both hammers. 2 thundering bangs resounded throughout the arena. The titanium crystal quivered from the impacts, but thanks to the calcining process, it didn't shatter. His zapping continued forging like so. His method was no different from what other blacksmiths considered the norm. His hammers descended like lightning, the boom of each strike ringing out in unison, while Tang Wolin's forging sounded like the pitter-patter of symphonic rain. His zappings was a raging thunderstorm. Each and every one of his strikes rumbled. One blacksmith worked as fast as possible while the other progressed slow and steady. Their forging styles were on the opposite ends of the spectrum. The blacksmiths in the audience guessed that Tang Wolin was using some special forging technique, but they couldn't fathom why he chose a different method from his zapping. Hey! Zheng Yuan nudged Yang Nyangsha who stood beside her. If it were you, would you do the same thing as Tang Wolin? Yang Nyangsha answered in a hushed tone. I would do what his zapping is doing. He's relying on the strength of his hammer strikes to untangle the golden threads within the titanium crystal and purify it. However, this method is difficult to us because of the metal's strength and brittleness. The titanium crystal has to be heated to a really high temperature and one has to have perfect control over their hammers to use that method. If his zapping uses too much strength, the metal will shatter. Too little strength, and nothing will happen. It takes a lot of skill and practice to control hammers that well. He's definitely a better blacksmith than me. He should be a 4th-ranked blacksmith. This will definitely be a good show. What about Tang Wolin? Zheng Yuan asked. Yang Nyangsha furrowed his brow. I can't make sense of what he's doing. It might be accurate to say he's using gentleness to forge the hardness, but I'm not sure why he's doing that for titanium crystal. He probably has his own reasons. You sure have a lot of faith in his skills. Zheng Yuan raised an eyebrow. Are you sure we won't lose this match? Yang Nyangsha smiled wryly. I've always thought of myself as crafty, but the class president is just downright two-faced. That guy doesn't do anything if he isn't confident he'll succeed. Besides, blacksmithing is his forte. He can even forge a spirit alloy for a piece of one-word battle armor. Do you really think he could lose? To me, that's impossible. Oh, right. Don't you know? He's a 5th-ranked blacksmith. I'm not a blacksmith. How would I know? Zheng Yuan began to stare at Yang Nyangsha in astonishment as this news registered in her mind. Wait, where'd you hear that? Do you really need to ask? He has a spirit alloy. It normally takes a 6th-ranked blacksmith to forge a spirit alloy. There's no way he's at the 6th rank, so he's got to be at the 5th. He is really talented after all. 5th rank. The thought made Zheng Yuan feel shame. Tang Wolin was only in the 1st grade, yet he was a 5th-ranked blacksmith. Never before in Shrek Academy history had a blacksmith as talented as him appeared. And, out of all the professions, it was the hardest to advance as a blacksmith. Seconds ticked by, and soon enough, 15 minutes had passed for Tang Wolin. He only had another 15 remaining. Judging by how much smaller each titanium crystal had become, his zapping was the clear winner. His piece had shrunk by 1/10 of its original size and it showed no signs of cracking. This was a testament to his skill. In contrast, Tang Wolin's piece was now orange, but it hadn't shrunk at all. Indeed, such gentle strikes couldn't possibly reduce the titanium crystal's mass. Tang Wolin didn't look concerned. His entire being was focused on forging. His eyes narrowed as he swung his hammers at a steady pace. All of a sudden, an ear-splitting boom shook the arena as his zapping slammed his hammers into his titanium crystal one final time. A beam of brilliant golden light shot out of it, reaching a foot into the air. It had been 1st-grade 1000 refined with spirit. Cries of astonishment echoed from off stage. The appearance of the beam of light signaled a successful 1000 refining, and a 1st-grade 1 at that. A 1st-grade 1000 refined metal simply couldn't be compared to normal metal. His zapping put away his hammers and stepped back. His chest moved up and down as he worked to catch his breath. The beam of light persisted for a few seconds, then gradually dispersing. His zapping was now finished forging. All he needed to do now was let the metal slowly cool down from its glowing red state. Chapter 400, Resplendent Gold, Titanium Crystals, Spirit Ascends. He Xiaobing's titanium crystal had become 20% smaller than before. The originally tangled mess of golden threads inside of it had also been transformed into a uniform sheet of brilliant light, a resplendent golden or a shimmer around the middle. There was no doubt that it was first grade 1000 refined. He Xiaobing put away his hammers and smiled in satisfaction. He understood that this was the limit of his abilities right now. Despite being under a lot of pressure today, he was able to bring the entirety of his ability to bear. It wasn't easy to first grade 1000 refine titanium crystal in a mere half hour, yet he had pulled it off perfectly. For the current him, this was a masterpiece. Shen Yi and Wu Zhangkong furrowed their brows. In their eyes, He Xiaobing had just claimed victory. He had started forging later than Tang Wulin, but still finished first grade 1000 refining the titanium crystal first. Tang Wulin couldn't win with a first grade 1000 refining anymore, and they knew that was his limit. Even if he succeeded in first grade 1000 refining his piece, he would still lose to He Xiaobing. Time passed by slowly. Tang Wulin continued forging, his focus just as intense as it had been when he began. Apart from developing a slight orange hue, no other visible changes had occurred to his piece of titanium crystal. The internal workings of the metal remained obscured. Wu Zhangkong knew Tang Wulin was a genius blacksmith, but he didn't understand exactly what that meant. He only knew that Tang Wulin came from a poor family. Could it be that he's never forged titanium crystal before? The thought cast a shadow of worry over his heart. This was the first match of the competition between the two grades, the one they should have had the highest chance of winning. If they lost this match, the first grade's morale would plummet, and their faith in Tang Wulin would waver. Now, there was nothing they could do but believe in him and pray that he performed a miracle. As the time limit approached, the banging of Tang Wulin's hammers became more intense. He Xiaobing watched him attentively. Even as a fellow blacksmith, he couldn't figure out what Tang Wulin was doing. At this point, no matter how he looked at the situation, Tang Wulin couldn't possibly surpass him. 10 seconds left. Although Shen Yi felt anxious, she acted as a proper referee and began the countdown. 9, 8, 7, 6. A bead of sweat ran down a first grade student's forehead. 5. Some fidgeted anxiously. 4. Another gulped. 3. In that split second, Tang Wulin's entire being seemed to grow taller, and he ferociously slammed his hammers down onto the metal. A draconic roar exploded from his body, a golden light emerging from it. The light shot into the orange piece of titanium crystal before him. It trembled for a moment, then its exterior peeled apart like the skin of a tangerine. A brilliant golden glow emerged from the titanium crystal, then shot into the air as a luminescent beam of light. The same instant that beam shot out of the metal, Tang Wulin turned into a ball of golden light. The draconic roar continued to reverberate in the air, a faint illusion of a golden dragon's head phasing into existence behind him. The ethereal dragon head opened its maw and turned it to the sky, almost as if the thundering roar had been coming from it all along. In a blaze of resplendent gold, the titanium crystal's spirit ascended. Compared to the beam of light that came from He Xiaobing's piece, Tang Wulin's piece generated a beam that was 5 times taller. The golden light stretched a full 5 feet into the air, and at its very apex a dragon's head could be vaguely seen. It looked exactly the same as the dragon head floating behind Tang Wulin. It even faced the sky and roared in the same way. Tang Wulin smiled softly. After winning the representative selection tournament and being accepted as the class president, his mind, body, and spirit had come into harmony. He was in peak condition, and as a result, he was capable of creating a work that surpassed his current skills. Today, at this very moment, he had succeeded in doing just that. Now everyone could see just how bizarre Tang Wulin's piece of titanium crystal was. It was a perfect sphere, the golden threads from before nowhere to be seen. In their place was a plain golden ball. The vein-like lines within the ball were finely organized into a blanket of gold, as if it had been sewn from the golden threads. It was clear that Tang Wulin's skill far surpassed He Xiaobing's. What happened next, however, shocked everyone to their very cores. The body of the titanium crystal began to shrink until it was 2/3 its original size. The crowd went wild with disbelief. How can this be? What kind of forging is this? It's amazing. A figure dropped from the sky, landed on stage, and smacked Tang Wulin in the back of his head. What the hell are you dilly-dallying for? Hurry up and finish it. Its spirit has formed, so you'll definitely succeed if you spirit refine it. Do you still need me to teach you this? If you waste this piece of titanium crystal, I'll make sure you don't get any sleep tonight. Tang Wulin rubbed the back of his aching head and looked up to see the furious Feng Wuyu. Its spirit has formed? Oh, it really has. He had never seen such a light from 1000 refining, but Feng Wuyu had lectured him on this. 1000 refining with spirit referred to bringing the spirit out of a metal by 1000. Refining, but spirit refining would grant life to the metal. However, once the spirit formed from 1000 refining, signifying that the metal's life force was on the verge of awakening and only needed one last push to fully awaken, this meant that spirit refining was practically guaranteed to succeed. This was why it was said that the formation of a spirit would lead to spirit refining. Tang Wulin didn't dare talk back to Feng Wuyu. Ignoring the small lump of pain gathering at the back of his head, he took a deep breath and stepped forward, preparing to swing his hammers again. Ella Feng. He Xiaobing bowed to Feng Wuyu. As a blacksmith in the 2nd grade, it was only natural that he was a member of Shrek Blacksmiths Association and recognized Feng Wuyu. Feng Wuyu's fury died down as he turned to address He Xiaobing. Your performance today was not too shabby, but you still have a long ways to go. Keep working hard. You have a good foundation, but your metal lacks in spirit. You need to deepen your understanding of metals. Even after giving these few words of advice, he showed no intention of getting off the stage. Up on the platform for the elders, Shen Yi turned to Elder Kai. What do we do now? Just when they thought Tang Wulin lost, he produced a miracle. However, Feng Wuyu then went on stage, which was clearly against the rules. Elder Kai glanced at her, then went back to looking at the stage. Let him continue forging. This match is the first grade's win. We'll push the second match back a little. Shen Yi walked over to Elder Kai, and in a hushed tone, she said, if we let Tang Wulin continue forging, he's going to be exhausted afterward. He still needs to participate in the team battle later, and he's one of his team's pillars. The Holy Spirit Douluo smiled and interrupted her. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of him. Shen Yi hastily nodded in agreement, saying no more. She turned her attention back to Tang Wulin, who was already back to forging at full speed. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.